heard, there's something we wanted to give to you.
What? To recognize the sales in the United Kingdom in excess of 600,000 copies of the single I Could Be the One, Universal. Wow, this is always super special. Yeah, crazy. Wow. Yeah, I mean, this is really great. But yeah, fair to say that it's also a big share of Avicii, obviously, for joining in on this one. It's cool for a photo to make one. Yeah. Is it fun to have this one here? Maybe. I have a lot of fun memories about meeting Tim, and the song actually came about quite naturally. So in the first few years we knew each other, we didn't really work on music because we mostly spoke about other things. I remember that I met him on a festival called Leaf Festival, and it was in a small little boat where you had to like row, to get somewhere. It was the way to get to the artist stage, and Tim and me were on the same boat, and he had to do a small performance there. And I remember that Tiesto came by, and a lot of like other artists came by. So we were all checking out his set, and I think it was in the beginning of 2010, maybe even 2009. But I think it's 2010. And back then he already had a very own style, and he had a very we would say in Dutch, a dry sense of humor. So he had a very own way of being funny. Maybe also a little bit insecure about things, but I think that's only normal when you start out as an artist. And yeah, so it was really about just enjoying life, and about I think young guys that just want to make music and focus on that kind of stuff. So after a while, we started talking about music, and we started playing the same festivals. And then my manager back then knew Avicii's manager, which was Ash Pournouri back then. And my manager back then was called Sander. And they knew each other from working together on Mix Mash. And yeah, he said, like, why don't we schedule a studio session? And so we did. I went to Stockholm, and he came to Veenendaal, to here. And we made a song in both sessions. One never really turned out to be quite finished. It was still an ID. And one actually we did finish. That was I Could Be the One. It never was called I Could Be the One in the beginning. I remember it was called Nicky Bomb. And it was, yeah, everything came quite naturally. And I never thought it would be a success as much as it is today. Back then, Avicii used Fruity Loops, which now is called FL Studio, and which is a different software package than I was using. I was working on Mac, so I used Logic, and he was working on Windows. So we had to exchange files all the time. You had these WAV files, the plugins. So he said, like, I want to use your kick drum. I like your kick drums. My kick drums were known for being quite punchy and round, and this makes no sense to people that don't produce music, but it all comes down to that he liked the kick drums that I was using. So I said, why don't we just pick one of my kick drums and then, use some of your melodies, because he is really good at melodies. So he opened a few projects, and he had this one project with a lot of different melodies, and he just played them for me like one by one. And I said, oh, I actually like this one, and maybe we can change the melody a little bit. Because I like the first part, and I think the last part maybe needs some work. So he exported that melody into our new project with my kick drum, and then added a few loops, and then we had this first part, that was the melody, but then you need this response, like an answer to that like piece of a melody. So we call that call response in making music, music terms. So we had the question, but then we needed the answer. And the answer was, he actually came up with that answer. And that was great because he really felt how to answer that melody. So then we came to a part that I said like, okay, but in my tracks, I do a lot of like melodies that go straight. So I said, why don't we do the second drop? And that became the second part of the drop. And it actually is one of the few tracks that has such a long melody and then also a whole part of the drop with a straight melody. It's just actually, if you think about it these days, it wouldn't make sense. But for that track particularly, it worked really well. So we finished that in one day, and I added some of my instruments, some of my effects. And we worked on the mix a little bit, not too much, way less than I normally do on my own. And then, yeah, we had a song. The fundament of I Could Be the One was there. I think I really, really underestimated the power and the impact of that song when I got back to my hotel room in Stockholm. I remember I was calling my agent, back then called Natalie. And Natalie, she was working for Anna Agency, and I did a lot of work with her on my career. She was really with me since almost the very beginning. So we spoke, and she asked me, so how did you like the session? Did it go well? And I said, yeah, it did go well. We do have a song. I'm not sure if it's really good, but we do have a song. A few days later, we played in this club in Glasgow in Scotland. And it was just me because Tim had to go to Washington for Dayglow. And I played the song and I was like, okay, we don't have a vocal. So we added this vocal from Justice, Dance. Justice, yes, ABC, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, that worked really well for the song, and added it to the instrumental, and I started playing out that one. So people called it the Justice mashup, aka Nicktim. People made their own song and their own song ID for the track. But still, I wasn't really like, okay, this is, people didn't know the song. It was a very different melody than I normally do. So people didn't really react when I played it out live in the few first times. So I wasn't super confident. And then Tim called me up after the concert. He's like, dude, it's such a sick record. And people were really crazy about it. And then it got filmed. And then it got captured for YouTube. And the next day, it exploded on the internet.
We're following some sad news from the music world. EDM star Avicii has died. He was found dead in the city of Muscat, Oman. Avicii, born Tim Bergling in Sweden, was considered a pioneer of electronic dance music, also known as EDM. He retired from touring in 2016 due to health issues. As a DJ, he sold out worldwide arenas with hits like 2013's Wake Me Up.
When the news got to me that Avicii wasn't with us anymore, that was one of these moments that maybe I'm wrong, but there was only one more moment that I can remember that I felt like that, and that was when Michael Jackson passed away. But with Tim, it was much more personal, obviously, because I had to work, and I got to work with him, and I got to know him, and we became friends. So it was a slight different feeling because it was a little more personal, obviously. But there was only one moment in my life where I was like, okay, like it feels like the time stands still for a moment. You're just like, okay. It feels like you're just nailed to the ground, and it was a very, very intense moment. And then I realized, okay, something has been going terribly wrong that we didn't see. I didn't notice anything. I spoke to him on a daily basis on WhatsApp, and we were working on songs for his album, and he said, I'm open to work on yours as well. And he sent me this record, Heaven, that wasn't out yet, I think 2 years before the release, and I was super, super impressed by that record. So yeah, I don't know. The first moment when I heard it, I thought it was fake. I thought it was, no, this can be real. That's not Tim. Something must have happened. So yeah, and that was an intense moment, obviously, and probably one of the very few moments in my life that I really felt like, okay, time stands still, and we need to, something needs to happen. There's something is really going wrong here. Now, other than that, you know, I think if you look at it from a different perspective, the tribute was truly beautiful. Every time I played that record out on Ultra and Tomorrowland and EDC and all the bigger festivals in the world, it's just so emotional because people sing it along, people know the message behind the song, they know the story, and they have memories to that song. So it's just a record that I cannot replicate, and it's like a legacy that I'm super lucky to carry with me because I have worked with Tim, and every time in my career I will be remembered to that moment. So yeah, I'm super grateful. At the same time, it's also a double feeling because it's also, you know, super sad that you can't share any memories with him anymore. So yeah, it's just hard to give the right words to it, to be honest. The record is still played a lot on radio, so I mean, I try to focus on positive memories, and I have so many positive memories with this record. So I try to focus on that and not so much on, you know, on the fact that you know, that Tim is not there anymore. Obviously, I do have a spot, you know, in my life and in my head for that, but I also try to focus on positive things because there are so many positive things. And we just had so much fun making that record, and I don't know, every time I play that record, I don't think I've ever played a set in the last 8 years where I have not played that record. It's like people will get upset if I don't play that record. So yeah, it's just a happy feeling when I hear it. I think the song is happy, and I think we should all focus on the positivity of records of Tim. In general, not so much only I Could Be the One, but I think that keeps the memory alive in the best possible way.